All right, I want to go through an example of substitution elimination, just because some people want some more extra help. We'll do substitution first. Substitution means when you're subbing something in, replacing it. So like if x equals 4 and you had an equation like 3x plus y equals 10, you would sub in that 4 to replace the x. So we're going to do that, except with something more complicated than 4 to sub in. So the very first thing when we see our equations, one of them has to say y equals something or x equals something. As we can see, neither of our equations actually say that. So let's try to rearrange. We can rearrange the first one because it's probably going to be easier because y is by itself. We're going to rearrange that one. So it's 3x plus y equals 7. So I'm going to rearrange it. I'm going to isolate y by subtracting 3x from both sides. So y is equal to 7 minus 3x. Cool. Now what I need to do is I need to substitute this into another equation. So I'm going to rewrite the second equation right here. And the idea is this number, 7 minus 3x, that's going to go into the y and replace it. So I'm going to write the same thing. Plus 2 equals 13. So I replaced the y with what we found y was equal to, 7 minus 3x. Now we just do our math, like our multiplication and everything to get the rest. 5x plus 14 minus 6x equals 13. Cool. So now I'll collect like terms. So I get negative 1x plus 14 equals 13. And I'll subtract 14 from both sides. Negative 1x equals negative 1. Divided by negative 1. X is equal to positive 1. Cool. I found my x. Now what I have to do is remember how I did the substitution over here where I subbed it in? Okay, we're going to do that again, but instead we're going to sub this simpler x equals 1 into one of the equations. When I look back, again, this one looks easier, the 3x minus 9. So I'm going to write that right here, 3x minus 9. Oops. Is it minus y? Plus y. Plus y equals, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? 7. There we go. So I'm going to sub in that one value for the x. So I'm going to rewrite it. 3 times 1 plus y equals 7. 3 plus y equals 7. So subtract 3 from both sides. Y is equal to 4. Cool. We originally, when we have two lines, we're trying to find the point of intersection, the x, y value of that point. I know x is 1, I just found it, and I know y is 4, I just found that too. So therefore, my answer, the point, is 1, 4. So let's recap the substitution method. We rewrote the equation so that it would be just y equals by itself. Then we took whatever y was equals to, is something complicated, and subbed it into the second equation for y. We replaced it. Then we solved and found out what x was equal to. It was, in this case, it was 1. We subbed that into another equation, it didn't matter which one, and solved to find out what y was equal to. At that point, we had x and y, so we wrote that as our answer and we're done. That's how you do substitution. Now we'll talk about an elimination example. You could use elimination in this question. It doesn't matter which one you use. It depends on what your preference is. When I look at this question for elimination, it's actually pretty nice because the first thing about elimination is you have to make it so that all the letters are lined up. So we have x's all in a row and y's all in a row, and then the numbers on one side. So the numbers are over here, the x's and y are over here. This works if they were lined up in a different way. So for example, if it was like this, if that was the question, I would have to move this 4y to the other side by like adding 4y to both sides so that then it would be lined up properly. So ours is already good, so let's go on to the next step. I want to isolate and get rid of one of the variables. I could either get rid of the x's or the y's. The way we do this is we figure out, we want to make it so they both have the same coefficient. So in the first one, we have 2 and 4, not the same. And then for y's, we have 4 and negative 1, also not the same. So I'm going to have to multiply one of the equations to make them the same. It doesn't matter which one, whichever one you're more comfortable doing. Let's do it this way. Let's make this one the same. So we're going to have to multiply this by 4 to make it equal to 4y and be the same. So I get 16x minus 4y equals, what's that? 52, negative 52. Cool. Now I'm going to rewrite this first equation underneath just so I can see it. 2x plus 4y equals 16. Great. So now I'm going to have to either add or subtract these two equations. I'm trying to get rid of the y's, negative 4y and positive 4y. If I subtracted, it would actually end up being negative 8y if you check on your calculator. So I'm going to add them together, and it's going to end up giving me 0y, so I don't even have to write it. That's elimination. We eliminated one of the variables. It's gone now. So we're going to do the rest of the addition and add together these equations. So 16x plus 2x gives me 18x. Okay. And then negative 52 plus 16 gives me, oh, I want to check and I won't mess this up. 52. 36. Cool. Okay. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 18. X is equal to 2. So I found my x value. Just like with substitution, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this number and sub it in for an x value. It doesn't matter which equation we use. I'm going to use the first one because it looks easier. 2x plus 4y equals 16. So that x is going to be replaced by 2. So 2 times 2 plus 4y equals 16. 4 plus 4y equals 16. 4y equals 12, because I subtracted 4 both sides. Y is equal to 3. Cool. So my answer is going to be 2 comma 3, because x is the x value there and y is the y value there, and that's my point of intersection. Let's recap elimination one more time just so we can see it. First, we make sure that everything's lined up, the x's and the y's. If we have to move things over to do that, we can. In this question, they were already lined up x, y number. Great. Second thing we did was we had to multiply one of the equations to make it so that the numbers matched up, the coefficients in front of one of the variables. So we multiplied one of them. Then we either added or subtracted to make it so one of the variables gets eliminated, gone. We added in this case. Then we add together the rest of the equations. So 16 plus 2x give us 18, and then we got 36 on this side. Then we just need to solve for x using algebra. That's going to be a part of our final answer. You're going to sub that value into x into one of the equations. We see it right here. And then we solved and we found our second variable y. That's going to give us the y coordinate of our final point and our final answer. And then we're done.